Morning, afternoon, whatever you are, wherever you are. Today is going to be a very special game time because it's going to be educational game time. We're going to try and learn some things, as well as I'm going to have fun. Hopefully. Hopefully I'm going to have fun. You never know with me anymore. Okay. So here's the plan. The plan is we're going to look at two Nintendo Switch games, both on the eShop. Incredibly throwback retro games. We're going to talk a little bit about where they came from, what they are. The first game that we're going to play is a game called Ikaruga, which people tend to know Ikaruga these days because it made kind of a push, in the mid-2000s, and people at least heard of it, even if they never played it or they have no idea what's going on. The second game we're going to play is a game called Zero Gunner 2, which nobody heard of. They were both originally Japanese import Dreamcast games. Specifically with Zero Gunner 2, there was a time when I was playing my Dreamcast a lot. And you have to remember, the time for the Dreamcast was a time before DVDs. The PlayStation 2 really, launched DVD into the stratosphere of what it became and the medium that it was. So the Dreamcast was before that. And the Dreamcast had its own special version of disc that it tried to be, clever with, and, security-wise, it was, unpiratable and all this other stuff. Turns out, in the long run, that wasn't true. You could literally just burn the game. You could burn it onto a regular CD, and you could pop most of them into a Dreamcast without doing anything to it, and they would just work. It was kind of bad for Sega. And, there were things that you had to have some things done to it, but it was relatively easy to copy those games. So at a time when that was running just absolutely rampant, everybody who had a Dreamcast had at least one burned game. Like, it was crazy. A couple of friends and I, we were looking at the things that weren't coming to America. And you got to remember, this was almost 18 years ago, right? Next year is the 20th anniversary of the Dreamcast. So it was, 17, 18 years ago, we were looking at that stuff. One game we actually ordered from PlayAsia and had it imported. We kind of all had to pitch in together to get that done, and that was Ikaruga. Ikaruga was just a fantastic shooter. It's made by Treasure Video Games. Treasure Video Games also made Gunstar Heroes, another one of my favorite games of all time. They made another shooter called Radiant Silvergun, which did eventually come to America on the Xbox 360. They brought that out. And I have that game to play. We can do that some other time if there's interest. Kind of the spiritual successor to Radiant Silvergun was this game, Ikaruga. And we played it on the Dreamcast all the time, and we loved it. It was a great game. And then, as we kind of got further and further into these games that didn't come here, we could not find a copy of another shooter. Well, what happened was there were people that were combining games onto one disc. So you would get this disc, like a burned CD, right? You'd put it in your Dreamcast, but it would have multiple games on it, not just the one game. So there was a shooter compilation that we found that had Ikaruga on it. It had Border Down, I believe, was on there, which came out later on the GameCube. It was a great game. I can't remember what the fourth game was, but the third game that was on there was a game called Zero Gunner 2. Zero Gunner 2 is still to this day one of the most revolutionary top-down shooters I've ever played, because you don't have a fixed angle that you shoot from. You can actually rotate your ship 360 degrees and shoot in any direction. That game only ever came out on the Dreamcast, in Japan, and was gone as soon as it was released. We couldn't find it anywhere. And about 4 months ago, they put it on the eShop for the Nintendo Switch. No idea where it came from, no idea how it got there, no idea whose brilliant idea was for that. But now, I can play Zero Gunner 2 on my Switch. So those two games I want to take a look at for a few minutes. Play both of those, go through that. This is going to be our Retro Game of the Week segment. A friend of mine, a viewer of the program, he said that there's not enough games under $10. You know, need like virtual console games. I need like cheaper games for the Switch. And Zero Gunner 2 costs $7.99. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. Ikaruga is $15, but that's because it's a little more popular and well known. It got popular as time went on. But yeah, we're going to take a look at those 2 games. And then we're also going to talk about 2 other things with that. You can see there, Ikaruga and Zero Gunner. We'll start with Zero Gunner, then we'll move to Ikaruga, because I want to show you something about the aspect ratio in Ikaruga that's going to require me having to go full screen and show you my Switch outside of the dock. So we're going to do that too. But first I want to show you Zero Gunner. Zero Gunner is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It is the first shooter, top-down spaceship shooter. There are only 2 ways to do shooters that they ever did. I'm sure there's more ways, but they only ever did it 2 ways. Either side view or top-down, right? It was either side view or top-down. This is top-down, but a totally different view for top-down. So here we go, Zero Gunner 2. Give me just a sec, I actually need to turn this down. I guess I had this up way too loud on my monitor, so here we go. That's much better. Okay, so like most ship shooters, for those of you not familiar with this genre of game, you get a couple different kinds of ships, and those ships all have different weapons. I like the Hokum myself. Now watch. You're shooting, okay? Now I'm turning. That ability to turn and be able to fire, they will come from all different directions, which is not like a normal shooter. Because it's got an axis, like it pivots on an axis. I'm gonna shoot down, let's shoot down. I'm gonna shoot back up, go shoot the other corner. There you go. You have to be aware of where they're coming from, as well as turn. This game's $7.99. This is one of the best games I've ever played. I still have a Dreamcast and that disc somewhere, just so I can occasionally be in the mood. I'm like, dude, I just want to play Zero Gunner. I don't have to do that anymore. They brought it to America. After 18 years, it finally came here. Ah, I blew up. God damn it. For what it's worth, I am not as good at these games as I once was. There was a time, but that time is over. But yeah, that ability to pivot on that axis is a totally game-changing element that nobody else did after this game. This was the only game I ever saw that did it. Ah, hell. There I go, I died again. Now, I want to also talk about a time in my life. It was a very, very good time in my life, when I worked at a local game store in the Salt Lake Valley called the Game Peddler. I met some decent people during that time, and I learned so much. Like, I thought I knew a lot of stuff, you know? Like, everybody thinks that they know a lot of stuff. And it turns out that the people that I met there, like, they were the real deal. They legitimately were the real deal when it came to video games, introducing us to things we had never seen before. A friend of mine and we learned so much during that time. And one of the guys there, we used to have like an educational, I don't know what the word is, class. Like, we would close the shop at 9 o'clock on Friday and Saturday nights. He only worked on Friday and Saturday. Damn it, I died. But every Friday and Saturday, he would bring for us something he was trying to show us something we had never seen before. Oh, I love this level. This level is so much fun. So we turn that way, then we'll turn back the other way and shoot out the other train. There we go. But yeah, every week his goal was to bring something that he owned that the rest of us had no idea. We had never seen it before. We didn't know anything about what was going on. And I played some of the best games on Earth. I mean, I have played the original Shock Troopers games on an actual Neo Geo MVS console. You know, that's like ridiculously... Like, wait, where's the Neo Geo? You know? The only time I had ever even seen the name Neo Geo at that point in my life was on those red AES cabinets that they have in arcades. That has like 4 or 5 different games on it that you can choose between. You know? I'd played like Fatal Fury and maybe a King of Fighters game, you know? But, you know, I played some insane stuff on those systems. And he used to bring in his Japanese import games. He used to bring in all sorts of stuff. And we would just sit and play. And he was a shooter guy all the way through. He loved these space shooters, like these Yeah, I think nowadays they call them shoot-em-ups. Because most people, when they hear shooter, they think of like Call of Duty. Or some first-person shooter. You know, the only first-person shooters we really had to go on back then were GoldenEye on the N64, and then everything else was on PC. We were playing Unreal Tournament, Quake 3. You know, at that point, we're doing some of the Tom Clancy stuff. Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon, I think, had been out. Towards the end of it, anyway. But yeah. We learned a ton of stuff. See this pivot? Isn't this pivot cool? Like, there are no other games that do that. Like, why didn't somebody rip this off and make another game out of it? Why didn't we get a Zero Gunner 3? I mean, I get it. At the time, you know, these kinds of games were dying. You're never going to see another R-Type game ever again the way that they're going. Gradius 5 was like the last of a dying breed when that came out on the PS2. It was one of the best games ever made. I love Gradius 5. But it didn't pivot like this. But yeah, so one of the things, the reason why I was bringing up that whole time at the Game Peddler doing that stuff, the gentleman who used to bring us the games to show us, like, education on Fridays and Saturday nights, one of the things he used to talk about at length was aspect ratios. So, right now, this has been rebuilt for a widescreen aspect ratio, right? And that's nice. I get my whole widescreen and I can use the whole screen to see what's going on. But display settings... Well, you do screen filter. Look at that. That looks like the old CRT monitors. Everything in this game turns into a robot, by the way, and it's fantastic. Ow. That is not what I meant to do. So I'm going to blow this one up. And then once I'm done blowing that one... maybe I'm not going to blow that one up. I'm going to turn. I'm going to rip this one apart. So aspect ratios were a big deal in arcade games. You got to remember, back in the day, TVs were 4x3. That is your standard, like old school tube television is a 4x3 display. You go watch old TV shows, you don't get the letterbox, you don't get a full screen, it cuts off sides when you watch it on a modern TV. You get all of that stuff, right? Well, it got even more complicated in arcade games. Ah, I got him. Good. In arcade games, what they would do, because they were trying to get it 3 across and 4 long, because you needed more length than you did width. What most arcade cabinets did, or a lot of them did from my understanding of it, was they would turn the TV on its side, inside the cabinet. So, you'd be looking at a TV flipped onto its side. So the guy who used to bring us those games and show us that stuff, he had 2 TVs at his house. One that he used for old school arcade games and one that he would use for modern stuff. Now the old school arcade game stuff, he had that TV sitting on its side all the time. That's just how it was. It was just on its side. And the reason why he did that was so that he could get the true aspect ratio of what arcade games used to do. which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because, you know, we're used to having our TV and having everything work with that and whatnot, but, yeah. Arcade machines had their TVs tipped up on their side, so that you could get true aspect ratio for what the games did. A lot of games, this one doesn't do it, but a lot of games, and when I get into Ikaruga, I will show you how this works, excuse me. A lot of games, you get more screen out of it. You get more real estate out of it. I'm going to use my special right now. I only have 2 arrows charged up on the side. That's what I've been collecting those E-tablets for, but we're going to use our options. This is something straight out of Gradius. Ready? There we go. We got him. Now he's back with more. We'll just keep on using those options. Ah, I love this game. Yeah, for a lot of things, you had to flip it on its side, a TV on its side, in order to get true aspect ratio on old school shooters. The Raiden games, depending on, you know, where you're from and how you like to pronounce things, Raiden games were like that. The R-Type games were like that. Gradius had its moments like that. Gradius 5 not so much because it came out on the PS2 later on. But there were a lot of games that you had to flip the TV on its side if you wanted to see the way it truly played. And that's kind of crazy. The other thing about it too is a lot of these games, so Ikaruga, Radiant Silvergun, Zero Gunner 2, Border Down, which Border Down later on, that game was just so unrelentingly difficult. Border Down hated you, and it made sure that you knew that as you were playing the game. See those homing missiles? That's why I like this ship. But yeah, if you would lose a life, if you got hit once, it would start yelling at you. It would be like, Border Down! And that meant that you suck, and we're going to make it easier for you because obviously you can't handle the way the game's supposed to be played. But yeah, games like this were all about a true intentional skill. Like, you had to be good at it. Genuinely. You had to be able to keep up with it. They didn't care if you sucked at it or not. They didn't care if you were frustrated or not. They'd be like, oh, you're frustrated? Let's make it harder. Games like Ninja Gaiden, when they came out on the Xbox, you know, people were complaining about the difficulty and whatnot that went with it. People who've been playing games like this for years were like, what are you guys bitching about? Like, seriously, like, calm down. Like, be grateful they're not screaming at you for what a worthless piece of shit you are. That was kind of the theory. I'm doing better than I was. See how everything's a robot in this game? Everything's a robot in this game. Oh, shit! Ow. That's game over. So that's what this one does. This game is special because of that rotating field of view. Something else that's kind of strange about it. So if I go back in here to normal and I play again, it's going to do the same levels that I just did, but it's going to do them out of order. Let's try one of the other ships. Let's show you one of the other ships. Submerged City. This is not the first level I did last time. In case anyone was wondering. I didn't get it. I need those power-ups so that I can start getting blasters. So it was totally shocking. My friend, who we used to hang out at that store, the Game Peddler, and you know, learn all this stuff. He told me the other day, he was like, hey, do you know Zero Gunner's on the Switch? And I lost my shit. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. How the hell? I was a little upset that I didn't know about it, and I had to be told. Because I'm usually pretty good at keeping up on that kind of stuff. But this game was lost to time. This was a game that no one was ever going to see again. And here it is. It just showed up on the Switch one day. So, to recap, aspect ratio is important. These games that are lost to time, that are coming back, it's important that you buy them. wanted to put that out there too. It's important that you buy them because if you don't, they're not going to bring you anymore. They actually think that, you know, these kinds of games don't sell anymore. They're like, we don't need arcades, even though they're fun. We don't need these kinds of retro shooters. Nobody buys them. Like, if there's a market for it, they'll make them. And the fact that this game is only $7.99 on the Switch is phenomenal. This is seriously the best $8 you could spend on a game on the Switch. It really is. Here I am, still kind of going through the motions here. Yeah, this ship's totally different because it's got those green laser blasters going on with it. Let's get those options on there. You can see there, too, that option works totally different than the last ship I used, which is awesome. So if you stop shooting, those different power-ups and such will come towards you. So we just let them kind of all suck in like a magnet. Yeah, 360-degree rotational view in a shooter. You will never see that in a game, ever again. I like it a lot better when I have the homing missile. That's why I like that other ship. But I figured we'd try this for now. Yeah, it kind of randomizes on you every time because it doesn't do the levels in the same order that it did before. Get that power up. Need that. Yeah, $7.99. $8. Other phenomenal shooters. R-Type anything. R-Type Delta is probably the best one. R-Type Final is really, really good. There are a whole bunch of Raiden games that are on... I think they actually started putting them on the Steam, of all things. Darius Burst is actually on Steam. Darius is a great game. Great old school shooter as well. You know, anything with the word Gradius, if you get the new Nintendo Online service, it includes Gradius 1, the old NES game, which that's actually, I think, the hardest of the NES games that were released. I actually think Gradius 1's the hardest of the Gradius games, too. Gradius 5 is incredible, but you can't get that anymore. What else is out there? There's a game series called Space Megaforce that's incredible. Space Megaforce, I believe that was on the Super Nintendo. There might have been a couple on the Genesis as well. Yeah, you want to be really impressively good at something? Like, it's not going to make, you know, regular people are going to be like, oh, it's not headshots, you know, no scope 360 in a Halo game or whatever the fuck those people say. But, like, there's a video online of a guy playing Ikaruga. He's playing two-player. He's using his hands for both players, okay? And he is taking on the entirety of the game. By himself. You want to be the most impressive you can be at something. Like, just something that people can't look away from. Get really, really good at a shooter. This kind of shooter. People are just looking at you like, wait, how did you... What the fuck is happening? Why? What did you do? Like, they just can't look away from it because of how crazy impressive it is. This kind of reaction time and skill, this is what impresses me. Not that other shit. And I'm not even playing. That guy playing Ikaruga with two hands is probably the coolest thing I have ever seen in my life. Alright, this train's gonna come through. I'm gonna blast all of that. Alright. And I'm gonna die anyway. So this is Zero Gunner. How fun is that? Never came to America. Japanese only. Until like 4 months ago when they put it out on the Switch. $8. Probably the best $8 I've spent in the last, like, year. Okay, we'll turn sideways. Do a little better on... Oh, there we go. Whoa, shit. Ah, he got me. Right as I got him. And then he's going to turn into a giant walking robot, or flying robot, because everything in this game turns into a robot. He's going to move, and I'm going to move with it. And I'm going to blow up, because that's what I do. Oh, he's gone. One more second, I would have made it.
Whoa!
There we go. Planes are gonna come right in. I do like the fact that these green lasers shoot through ships into other ships. Like, those lasers will blast through whatever it is that's happening. So this ship is nice. I just like Hokum better. I like the homing missiles. It compensates for how much I suck at these games now. It really does. Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. We need another flying robot. So running into things in this game does not kill you like it does in other games. Just getting shot does. And there you go. I just got shot. Oh, good. I got blown up again. Well, this one's not going to work out very well for us today, is it? God damn. Nope, that was it. You want to try that third ship? You guys want to see what that looks like? We've done Hokum. We've done Comanche. It's time to look at Apache. Yeah, phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, I played this game again back in like 2003 as a Japanese burned import. And then they just went, hey guys, here's a ship. Here's a game. Try this out. You can already see that this doesn't fire the same way as the other ships. I don't like this one as much. It seems like its sub-weapons, like those little missiles that it's shooting, do more damage, but you gotta aim those to be good with them. It doesn't just home in and do shit like the other ones do. So it's important. I think it's important to remember games like this. Not just because, you know, this game is cool as hell. Not just because this game was lost to time and now it's back out. But we need more like them. And if you don't know what these games are, and you won't spend your money on it, then we're not going to get more. And I want more. Do it for me. Do it for the Gipper. I'm going to be the Gipper today. Oh, I blew up. Ouch. Did it again. See, this is why I don't like Apache. I'm not very good with it. Everyone just uses this helicopter, and they're like, look, we're using the helicopter. Also, soundtrack's pretty cool in this game. Boom. Bring out the hidden mech. Hidden mech.
Whoa!
Yep. And off we go. Now, there are some other games that are out there now, specifically on the Switch, that you can get that play like this. Neo Geo has a couple games. They've been putting the Neo Geo Arcade Classics up on the Switch as individual games. You can get like King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, some of those other things. But there are a couple other ship shooters like this that Geo did that you can get now on the Switch as well. And they're all less than $10. In fact, I think those ones are less than... I think those ones are like $5. Maybe they're $6 or $7.99, I'm not sure, but they're pretty cheap. And you want an afternoon of just being like, you know, I'm going to challenge myself to something. That's another problem I have with games. Alright, let's talk about that. There are not enough people in this world who want to spend an afternoon trying to challenge themselves. They're like, well, if I can't just get it to work right away, and I can't just be good at it by picking it up, then I don't want to play it. And that kind of bothers me. Like, every game has this forced tutorial now, right? Every game has these different, you know, I don't have to actually learn to play this game. I can just kind of die over and over and over and over again, and it'll restart me right where I died. I don't have to go back to the beginning of the game. I don't run out of continues. I don't have to improve what I'm doing. There's not a lot of work that goes into that anymore. For most games, it's just, I died. I'm going to start playing the new Tomb Raider here before too long. I can almost guarantee that's what it's going to be. It's going to be, oh, you died? Okay, cool. Let's, you know, start you right where that guy killed you, and let's do that again. You know, there's not a lot of skill involved in a lot of these things anymore. This game takes skill to be good at. It really does. You got to learn the mechanics. You got to learn how to do something. You got to want to sit down and work at it. You know? Games used to do that. They used to have a skill level involved with it. Now they're trying to lower the barrier of entry for everyone, which is fine. I get it. You want more people to do it, but don't treat everyone like that. And they treat everyone like the lowest common denominator. That bothers me immensely. There are very, very few games that do that. There you go. I just got myself killed. Like, that's always the frustrating one, is when you die when you know you shouldn't have. You're like, oh, there's one bullet on the screen. I just need to dodge one. And then you get killed anyway. Yeah. That's always the worst. But yeah, like, they don't make games harder. They don't make games at a natural difficulty. They neuter them as much as they can. Because people don't want to try. People don't want to learn anymore. People don't want to be good at something. Like, when my sister and I used to sit and play 8-bit Nintendo games, like, we had to leave the system on all night. God almighty, I'm dying like crazy. We had to leave our system on all night because we didn't have saves. Yeah, that was game over. We couldn't just start where we left off. It wouldn't save us any old place that we wanted to. I mean, we get save states in games now, which is nice, but, like, if you wanted to be good at Mega Man, you had to be good at Mega Man. You had to learn the levels. You had to learn how to make those things work. The reason I can beat Super Mario Brothers in 8 minutes, and my sister said it last night, she was like, I can beat it in 8 minutes too. The reason why she can do that is because that was one of, like, the 4 games that we owned, and we played that until we knew it. And when I say knew it, like, I could probably play that game blindfolded. Like, that would be a fun test, I think. Like, I think that I could actually get all the way through the first couple of levels blindfolded. You know? And it's because that's what we had. That's what we knew. That's what we worked on. You know? Nowadays, you don't have to do that. You just keep throwing yourself against the rock, and eventually the water will break the rock. That's just how that goes. So, but yeah. These games take skill. I hope that there are enough people still left out there that want to take an afternoon sit down. And even if you're frustrated while you're doing it or whatever, like, being frustrated with something means that you're getting close to breaking through in a skill level. And once you break through, you're not frustrated anymore. You're just completely elated that you actually did something. How incredible is that? Like, how great is that feeling? People don't do that anymore. People now just sit around and go, well, if it doesn't come to me my first try, then I don't want to deal with it anymore. And that's crap. Like, you got to sit down and work at something. These games were something to work at, and they were great. So that's Zero Gunner 2. I'm going to switch over now to Ikaruga. But I do want to take a 5-minute break. I need to take a moment here and fix something before we do it. But this is the one. We are going to talk about Ikaruga here. And we are going to talk about aspect ratio a little more with this game. And we're going to talk about, you know, that skill level it takes to be part of this game. This game has a very unique mechanic to it, which is awesome. And please remember that the important thing about the game we were just playing, Zero Gunner 2, the important thing about that game is its 360-degree rotation. There has never been another game that has let you do that, as far as I know. It was one of a kind, it was lost to the world, and now you can get it for $8 on the Nintendo eShop. So let's take 5 minutes, and I will be back, and we will play Ikaruga.